Now, it bears a mention that history plays a very, very important role, a very crucially important role when it comes down to facilitating your well being, or when it comes down to growing as a more well educated person, as becoming that ideal of a Renaissance person. A Renaissance person, there's one crucial principle that a Renaissance person takes, is that through all his learned ways, through all his well schooled through schooling himself through a lot of various sources, through ingesting literature, through ingesting the principles of mathematics, through studying science, through studying technology. The perspective shift is that Renaissance men don't take progress for granted. Renaissance people, or well educated people, or people that have devoted their time to looking at different perspectives through history, through technology, through science, and through literature, there's one crucial insight that one of these days people are going to bump into. If you're investing sufficient time towards self-education, there's one of these days that you're going to start to think to yourself, well, I've read so many volumes, I've ingested so many of these things from the past, insights from Newton, insights from Gottfried Leibniz. I've studied all these calculus, I've studied all these probability, and most importantly, I've studied history. Then wouldn't that reveal to the man himself that progress indeed is still happening? Progress indeed is still happening. History is still happening. Now, this is one crucial point, one crucial insight that I wish to communicate today. How can we use history to practically transform ourselves as individuals? And this point right here, I think it's crucially important, which is that you need to understand that history is still happening. Sounds like a painfully obvious point. Well, of course history is happening. I wake up tomorrow, I go to school, time is still rolling on. It doesn't seem as though time has stopped, or it doesn't seem as though everything had just coming to a halt. It doesn't seem as though stuff around me is going to stay the same anymore. Well, here's the crucial point most people miss out. Because routines, daily routines, they have dulled our senses as to accept what is in front of us as immediate truth. Okay? Anything that we see in the media, we accept as a stagnant truth. And the way progress happens nowadays is it's a subconscious and unconscious process. A new product rolled along, and you buy that product from Amazon. There you are contributing to the progress of history. There you are seeing history unfold in front of your very eyes. And there you are seeing all these technological advances around you. But for you, it only feels like a temporary excitement because, well, you're getting a new phone next month. Because Apple released a new product that you're really excited about. Because that Netflix series right there released some new series that everyone's very, very excited to watch. So what we miss out is that, what we tend to miss out if we don't zoom out and look at ourselves, if we don't have the meta awareness, is that we sort of are just rolling along with the idea of progress. We're just sort of rolling along with this train and not knowing where it's going to lead. And this can lead to some pretty dire consequences. Can lead to some issues that hadn't been resolved. Why is depression rate going through the roof nowadays? Why are youth suffering from anxiety and depression? And why is the education system not really teaching students the things that they actually need to learn? Why is it the case that we spend so many years regurgitating concepts without getting anything out of them? How is it the case that most people are not that effective in the world? Why is it the case that most things that people set out to do, they don't actually come to achieve them? How is it the case that there's so many systemic problems in society? Well, all of these can be traced back to the root that people don't actually realize that history is happening right now. History is going forward into a direction unknown. And then them not seeing this history happening in this line, it's them not seeing that they are participating in this endeavor, a human endeavor of advancing society. They think they're just not making a difference. But actually, every act that you do have already contributed to history. It is them not having this perspective of them actually doing all these things to make history go forward, and the unconsciousness of which that have contributed to some of the downfalls that we have. thinkers are no longer original because they fail to zoom out and to see what is happening on a higher scale. That is why studying history proved to be extremely important in the 21st century. When most people think of history, they think of, let me memorize a bunch of facts. Let me memorize all these places and people that got killed. Let me memorize how many crates of tea they dumped into the sea during the American Revolution. Well, let me memorize that guy's name. What's his name again? The Duc de la Rochefoucauld? The Marquis de Lafayette? So many names out there for me to memorize. How am I going to remember all of those? And what's that book called that documented all the grievances of the peasants? The Cahiers de Doléances? Let me memorize all of that. But as you're memorizing all of these, you're missing out the main point of history. The main point of history is to give you that perspective as you look back, as you have the luxury to look back into the days of the peasants, days of the American Revolution, days of the Yankees, days of the decadent old regime. What you're going to start to realize is that olden era, that era that you deem as distant and archaic, that era is actually connected to the modern era. Without that era, modern era could have not occurred. People roaming the streets right now, if you read a passage or two about the old streets of London, if you roam around the streets, again, seeing people doing their things, what you're going to start to realize is that nothing much have changed. People still do their stupid stuff. People are still going on and on about their routines. People still behave pretty much in the same way. And of course, progress has happened, and you are a part of this progress, but without this direct awareness that history is still happening right in front of you, without this holy shit moment of, wow, I am living history, you couldn't break out of this cycle of getting stuck in a way of thinking, of your present time. It is through this wisdom that we can gain from the past, can we integrate the past into the present, and to see, sort of gauge where exactly we're going, sort of gauge where exactly we're heading towards, and to sort of alleviate ourselves of this getting stuck in a specific era, getting stuck in one specific way of doing things, and then sort of getting stuck in a dominant discourse of present society. And then can we enable ways of new thinking, new ways of interpreting things, and new ways of open-mindedness, new ways of interpreting science, and new ways of looking at technology, and new ways of looking at where progress is going to lead to. Because it's so hard to break out of the dominant discourse of society. So hard to break out of the sort of, so hard to break out of the common opinions of other people. It's so hard because everyone's talking about the same thing. Everyone's talking about the same set of facts, same set of theories, reading the same kind of books. You need perspective. Perspective can be gained through history, can be gained through literature, can be gained through studying sciences, the history of ideas, studying various disciplines like economics, social theory, and then psychology and the evolution of philosophical framework. And then you can even study the evolution of the style of clothing that people used to wear. And to deduce that, holy crap, history is still happening. The clothes that you wear right now, after 50 years, it's going to become a relic of history. The clothing that you see people wear on the streets nowadays, well, think again. After 50, 60 years, clothing is going to change so much under your awareness, when you're not even aware of it, that people are going to start to wear different things, you're going to buy into a different trend, and then clothing itself is going to evolve. And the stuff, the crap that you wear right now, is going to look like the 18th century gowns that they wore. It's going to look like the 18th century top hat, the 18th century vest coat, which looks pretty ridiculous nowadays if you wear it out on the street. But your clothing right now is going to look exactly, it's going to appear exactly like that back in the days, in 50 years' time. So you have to become very aware that history is still happening. That what we believe right now cannot be taken for granted. Where we're heading towards, we don't know. And you need to know that you don't know. If you think that you do know where we're heading, well, that just shows you how entrenched you are into this current of, don't want to call it conformity, but this current of dominant discourse in society. It is only through studying history and becoming a Renaissance man, can you zoom out and to see yourself in a new light, see the things around you in a new light, see that everything that you've read from history textbooks, they are somehow still occurring. We're running on the same patterns, same dysfunction, same human squabbles, and same sort of evolution that's happening. This is the process of evolution, and this is really beautiful insight that if you devote yourself to the Renaissance man journey, if you study widely, if you read widely of books, of novels, of history, of science, and of philosophy, you're going to start to see progress is still happening. Whatever we took for granted in the past, it's still going to evolve. And that really frees you up to, well, look at yourself in a different way. Look at society in a new way. Look at your daily occurrences in a brand new light. Just the other day, I was talking to my friend, because at school, you have to wear the blazer and the sweater within, and you have to do your tie pretty properly at my school. Then I talked to my friends and I said to him, you know what? School uniform hadn't changed that much since the 20th century. Well, hell, even the 19th century. You know, we were still wearing these blazers. We're still having these ties and the shirts. And we're somehow still, well, within this education system. And at that moment, I began to realize some stuff had not really changed, whilst other stuff, they've changed drastically. And I am a player, a part of the whole that's in this, God, magnificent machine of evolution. I am somehow within this process. I'm within this train that's rolling forward. And the fact that I can see that, wow, that is the power of history. And I love that feeling of walking along the streets and seeing everything unfold in front of me, of having the wisdom of the past and somehow integrate the two together. And I think that's where true education lies. That's how education can change us entirely. It offers us perspectives never entertained before. It offers us a way of looking at the world that frees us up from any frames of stagnant thinking. And it opens up new possibilities. Opens up new possibility for literature, for research, for scientific endeavors. So we're no longer drones just feeding into this machine, this capitalistic machine. We're no longer drones mindlessly sloughing through. But each one of us can become truly intelligent thinkers that's veering society towards just a righteous direction of seeing and foreseeing the consequences, becoming systemic thinkers, advancing upward to stage yellow of spiral dynamics. And that's what I really want to do, to push forward this agenda of mine, of putting out literary work, of putting out essays, of writing my own books on these sets of theories, never taking things for granted. And this key central point of education as enriching the soul and as cultivating wisdom instead of a stagnant process of regurgitation and memorization. This needs to change in the future. And I want to play an active part in that. So that's the content of today's video. So for the rest of this video, let me talk a little bit about this new book, which just arrived at the doorstep. And wow, it's very hard for me to articulate how just how funny this process really is of having an idea and letting the idea grip you so wholesomely as to have a book in your hand, as to have your own book in your hand. Now you might be wondering, Robin, are you a YouTuber? Are you a speaker? Are you an essayist? Or are you a novelist? I'm so confused. You do so many things. Well, even Leonardo da Vinci only had one medium. How are you jumping in between all these mediums? Well, here's the thing. Most videos that I record on this channel, they offer tips and advice in terms of self-education. But as I said before, every Renaissance man, they have their own creative output. And my creative output, as I could sense, is going to be writing. And then this first novel of mine, a brief synopsis would be a criticism of snobbery, of social snobbery, a criticism of sort of a deconstruction of the dark academia ideal of the educated, uptight man. And it's sort of a very interesting inner exploration of a man's inner world, of someone's inner world, as he encounters different situations, as his identity slowly withered, and as he lets go of concepts, and as he begins to, should I say, as he begins to merge with reality, as he begin to, become more wise, as he let go of his stagnant ways. So this little novel here, I consider it as a piece of philosophical work, to be honest. So in the future, let's make this input and output distinction clear. Quirky Inquiry or R.C. Waldun video series, they are going to be concentrated upon offering you people advice for input. How do we become more educated? Whilst the blog and my books are going to be my direct creative output. How did I use all these knowledge that I've gathered? How did I assemble all these knowledge and then channel them into creative novels, creative essays? How did I do that? So in a sense, this traces the journey of a writer, really. I really am. I was born a writer, and I'll keep writing. I'll keep producing all these videos, these books and essays until the day I die. Basically, this is how it's gonna roll now. And also, there are a lot of self-discovery things, and then life events are going to happen. And then next year I'll go to university to document all of that and to see how they congeal together, and how my own experience become my own body of work. Well, that's pretty darn exciting. So I wish to talk to you guys more about this book that's about to be released in less than a week, and I'm really excited for you guys to get your hands on this book. Anyways, that's it for this week. Hope you guys are having a great week, and I shall be signing off right about now.